Hey, I'm Mitchell Davis, a Laravel developer.
And I'm Gavin Tye, sales and marketing person.
We're, we're building. No, let's do that again. That's no good. Uh, do you want this to say something different?
No?
No, you happy with that? All right.
Yeah.
Let's scrap the person. I don't think that. All right. Hey, I'm Mitchell Davis, a Laravel
I'm Gavin
developer.
Tye. Oh.
You cut me off. Why'd you
I
cut me
forgot that
off
you're going to
for?
say Laravel developer.
Oh
No,
no.
but
We
you're not
need this.
Laravel. You're the founder of SixSides, co-founder. You're not a Laravel developer. In this context, you're
No, but if we both just say we're co-founders, that doesn't tell anybody anything.
okay.
Um, so I think this we can work on it. We'll stick
Yeah,
with this
sure.
one for today.
Sure.
So don't cut me off this time.
All right.
All right. Hey, I'm Mitchell Davis, a Laravel developer.
And I'm Gavin Tye, sales and marketing
We're
extraordinaire. Don't cut me off, man.
oh fuck me. Okay, the script is not working. Okay, I will give you time after you do your sales and marketing. Okay,
All right.
final take. Hey, I'm Mitchell Davis, a Laravel developer.
I'm Gavin Tye, background in sales and marketing for B2B SaaS companies.
We're building SixSides.co, and that's an events platform that helps you build a stronger community through events. And this is our B2B SaaS journey. Gavin, how you going?
Good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm here. I'm ready to record. We're into week 3 now. Doing well, and
Yeah,
it's
I
fun.
like the
I'm
mi-
I'm having a blast with it, right?
yeah. I like how you mixed it up with a hat this week.
I'm trying to. Yeah, it's having a big bald head on camera for half an hour. It doesn't look so good. So I'm trying to mix it up. Different hats. I think I've got a hats drawer. I think I've got like 8 different hats
Yeah, right.
in the drawer. So you'll get to see them all, and then by the time we get through those, it'll be into winter. Maybe we'll get some beanies or something going. So,
Yeah, yeah, nice.
what about you? You a hat guy or no hats?
Yeah, mate, my hat, when I wear a hat, it just goes all funny from there on, right? So I do like it if I get into the habit, but I also I try not to as well. I don't like hat hair. So
I don't have
yeah,
that problem. So
no, no. And your board head mucks up with the contrast and the editing, right? Like it,
that's true. Yeah, when we were doing the cover art, yeah, you look great. You've got an outline, and I looked like I'd been beheaded from only half my head. So
yeah.
anyway, we play to our strengths. All right, so I'm going to ask you, how did Cyclone Alfred affect you? Because that's what the people want to know.
Yeah, everyone who's listening. Yeah. So last week, if you're only just listening, I'm in Queensland on the Gold Coast, and we had Cyclone Alfred, which is the first cyclone since I think 1952 come down this far on the coast. And it stuck off the coast for ages. And luckily, because it kind of got a little bit, it weakened, but it ripped the Gold Coast, the beaches apart. Like there was 3 meter drops from the sand down into the water, and it's going to take 6 months to 12 months to fix. So our house was fine. It was pretty good. There was just a lot of rain afterwards. The winds were crazy, and there was a few trees down around the place, but our house was okay. We got a little couple of leaks in the roof, and my wife, who's scared of the dark, she crawled up in there just because I got a bad knee. And
Mm,
but it was generally okay. Most places around here were okay. So
yeah.
yeah, thanks for asking.
No, that's okay. Look, we put it in the title of the last show, so I'm guessing some people would be interested in what happened. It
Yeah,
was kind of like it kept circling, right? It
yeah,
was kind of
yeah.
just like, come on, let's just get this thing done. So yeah, that was interesting for me to watch, from down Sydney way. For us, it was quite windy, and it did rain a little bit, but yeah, it was nothing like what you were going through.
Oh,
But yeah, just the whole time I was like, what's going on? Is this thing going to hit? We weren't sure what was happening. So,
yeah. Well, it made me have a look and investigate like what are the categories of cyclones because if you're not in them, you don't really pay attention. So we had
yeah.
100 kilometer an hour winds, and I had a look at what a category three, four, and five. It was category two here. Category five is something like 250 plus kilometer-hour winds, and I'm like,
Jeez.
that is just unfathomable of the size
Yeah.
of that or how scary that would be. And yeah, I have a newfound respect for people who are in cyclone zones.
Yeah,
Yeah,
crazy. That'd like
yeah.
knock your house over. 250.
Oh, mate, yeah, absolutely. So, mate, how was your week? How's your week last week?
Um, well, it's been good. We've got a lot of stuff done with SixSides, and we'll kind of get into that soon. But all in all, fairly good. Got to catch up with some friends last weekend. Some people that I hadn't seen in like a year and a half because they had been overseas. So that was awesome. And it's funny, I actually, relevant to SixSides, I spoke with two different friends who both might have opportunities for us. It ties into events. So maybe
Okay.
off the mic, maybe we could sit down and go through that together. But yeah, it was cool.
Put
I
him in the
got to tell.
HubSpot, mate. Put him in the HubSpot so we don't lose track of what's going on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. Yep, absolutely. So yeah, it was cool. I got to kind of chat through what we're doing and hear, first impressions from people that I trust, and yeah, it was great. And just really nice to catch up with friends. Apart
Yeah.
from that, just fairly busy, normal work stuff. Doing things for my other business, Atlas Software, and yeah, I'm
Okay.
always looking
Yeah.
forward to, now that we're in the swing of this with doing these recordings. We do them on Fridays. I really look forward to it. Each Friday morning, I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. We get to get on and talk for an hour, and it's fun. And sticking with our theme of like not really doing or doing the minimum amount of editing possible, so that this thing doesn't become like a pain in the ass to work on. I've got it timed, and for us to record, we might do an hour, and then I can get the edit done in about half an hour after that.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
and that's way better than when I was doing some other podcasts previously, where I would like try and chop out every and dar and like, overproduce it, and it would take me like 4 hours or something like that to do.
Yeah.
So,
Right. Yeah.
I'm loving that this is just so much faster, and it feels like we're in the flow with it now. So, and little numbers update for you, and then I'll ask you about your week. I think we've got about 10 subscribers now for the podcast, so
Yeah. Right.
things are going well. It's
Okay. Yeah.
you
Nice.
know, small steps. It's early days, but 10 isn't nothing. So if you are listening, thank you. And if you have any comments or things that you want us to talk about on the show, just reach out. We'll have all the links in the show notes. So that
Right.
was me, mate. What about you?
But question for you. How do you balance your development commitments with Atlas, your big day business, and then
Yeah,
our stuff with EventKit? Sorry, with Six Sides, EventKit was a previous name. How do
yeah.
you balance that between the both?
It's tricky. It's like balancing anything else, any other. You're getting pulled in lots of different directions all the time, not just with work, but with family or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, it is helpful to have like deadlines on certain things to know that, okay, cool, I can kind of hold on this for a couple of weeks, but then I'm really going to have to set aside some time to get in and focus on this thing for 2 weeks and build out this feature, or whatever. Like some of the things that we're talking about building in to have available, maybe around middle of this year, for some leads that we've got at the moment. So thinking through all of that stuff and trying to get like a timeline so that I can balance everything. Like it's just hard. That's the nature of having a side business.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's really hard to balance everything. So I am finding I'm not having as much time to put into SixSides as I would like, but it's an evolving process. So
Yeah.
I'll be,
Yeah.
obviously I'll make sure that we're meeting any of our commitments.
Yeah.
But it's
I,
tricky.
I think I think there's a balancing act too, right? Like if you have all the time in the world, you can be as pedantic and as detail orientated as you need to be. I think when you're balancing the constraints of time and commitments elsewhere, I think there has to be a trade-off to go, is 80% good enough, 70% good enough? And then I can come back to it later. Um, because I think at the end of the day, the final 10 or 20% is really for us, right? It's really not for um
Yeah.
end. yeah, and you're hyper detail orientated in certain things. I'm quite relaxed in other things. So yeah, it's interesting
We,
to see you work in that because I do see you put yourself under stress. We'll go, man, don't worry about it. It's
yeah,
fine. Yeah,
yeah,
because you are you're paid by the keystroke, right? I'm paid by the outcome. It's slightly
yeah.
different. Yeah. Anyway.
It's true. Yeah, it's true. We'll get into specifically a great example of that in just a little bit. But tell me about your week. How have you been?
Yeah, so my week is for SixSides is really about establishing connections in industry and just letting them know we're there. And I'm really trying to leverage my relationships or my past work of I do a fair bit of mentoring work. So it's always about, and I never knew because I always wanted to give back for the community, but I have built a set of relationships out of there. So um, this week I've just been having there's an opportunity or a potential conference, or there is a conference around here coming up towards the end of the year and or middle of the year, sorry. And so I just reached out to them, and then we had a catch up with them about what their goals were. Um, and we're also there's a few other people that I've been meeting with this week just to talk about what we're trying to do with the platform. And again, it's resonating, but people just take time. We need to get our ducks in a row there as well. We need to. Um, we've been working on an overview doc
Yep.
that has come through this week, but I think everything's progressing. It's we've got to hope we were hoping to hear back about something today that's been delayed to next week, but I feel like we're close. Hey, I feel like there's probably two or three opportunities here for this year that we could get, and um, it just takes time, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Is that how does that number sit with you? Two or three um, events that we will be will potentially able to get to this year. Would you like when we first got started with this? Would
Yep.
you have expected more or less in the first year? Because we know, like, you got to lay the groundwork, right? And like we talked about last week, these events, it's like 12 months in advance often. So we kind of
Yep.
knew that going in. But yeah, how are you feeling about that number?
Oh, so when I say two or three events this year, that's all we currently know of. So
Right.
more will come onto our radar as soon as you start doing this stuff. Things, as you can tell, like what's been happening. I'm a big proponent of if you start putting effort out and the energy out, things will come in from left field that you're not aware of. But if you don't put any effort out, things won't come back in. Happens
Yeah.
every single time. So
Yeah.
I think effort will breed effort. And although I have visibility across maybe three, maybe four, a couple of these are big opportunities that I think that will breed other opportunities as well. So, God, if we put a flag in the ground and said, hey, for the first year, if we got somewhere between 50 and 100K and we're just in the ideation phase still, or that'd be such a great result, right?
Yeah.
Um, we haven't caught up yet on talked about and planned out how we want the evolution of the platform to go, right? How we want it. Are we going to be product-led growth? Are we going to be sales-led growth? We need to do that. And it needs to be able to, having the vision is one thing, but if you can't build it, then it doesn't mean shit. So
Yeah.
we need to
Sure.
figure all that stuff out. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I'm excited. Maybe some of that we could do on here on mic, but some of
Yep.
that we'll keep to ourselves. But
Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely. Well, I guess some more follow up. Uh, no, actually, let's continue on with the slide deck that we put together.
Sure. Yeah.
Um, so this is what I was alluding to before about being very detail oriented, or you mentioned. So we've been working on over the last few weeks this presentation, a PDF basically of, hey, this is kind of how we see the industry problem, our solution, the different sides of a community that we're trying to help. We've got a case study in there, and then like a call to action. And the idea, what's the idea for you behind this doc? Where would we use this? Who is it for?
Yeah. So we have to let people know that. we have to give them a takeaway as such, right? And I think this is an evolution. This isn't the first document, which I think most people probably try to make the mistake of, hey, I'm going to make a pretty doc, right? Their evolution for us is, well, why are we going to build a business? Like, what does a community look like? What are the different sides of a community? What are all the ways that we can help them during, before, and after an event? And what are the features and benefits they get? So we did a really detailed couple of thousand word document, and
Yeah.
it's extremely text heavy, and it's only interesting to us,
Yeah.
right? So we had shared it with a couple of people. I shared it with a couple of people, and like most founders would go, people are going to say, "Oh my God, this is amazing!" And we got some feedback, and it was like, "Mate, that's too text heavy. I didn't read it." It's like, "Yeah, of course you didn't. I wouldn't read it."
Yeah.
Um, but so our version of that is we need to iterate it and make it look reasonably, well, try to give a professional image of, just to really give this overview doc, in my mind, in a sales context or a marketing context, is really just to give it, to garner interest, give an indicator of value. So people are like, oh, they've really thought this through, right? If it looks professional, it looks really good, people are going to say these guys are, they look pretty sharp, right? If it's a sloppy doc, then they're going to say this guy's sloppy, right? This business is sloppy. So it's a
Yep.
first impression, really,
Yep.
right? So
Absolutely. And then how we kind of came up with the content was this like multi-thousand word doc that Gavin was talking about, largely focused on the features that we have available, different things that we're thinking of. And we then took that, kind of condensed it down and just pulled out the really valuable parts. And that's what ultimately made it into this
yeah,
new like presentation doc that we've got. What would you call this doc?
it's an overview. Let's just give it an overview. Yeah,
Okay,
I
cool.
changed it from, we did have it as a pitch deck. It's not a pitch deck. It's a SixSides overview
Cool.
document. Yeah,
Okay, so
yeah,
this overview doc, how we then went about getting something that was nicely designed was we used Upwork, right, which you have used in the past and you've talked a bit with me about before on some other projects. Um, so yeah, what was that process like to go through and find someone on Upwork? Did you already have someone in mind, or you just
yeah.
started from scratch? How did you go about that?
So I think it takes, I've used Upwork quite a bit over a period of time, and I've had varying degrees of success. So it's all about practice, really. I put a job post up, and then I'll just let people apply to me, right? And I'm really looking for their past work. There is a risk there because people can put up any PDF and say that's the work they've done before.
Yeah,
So, and this guy, he was from Pakistan. Um, he seemed to do a couple of his slides really resonated, but there was one AI doc that he created. And I thought, oh, yeah, look, we don't need to reinvent the wheel here. The framework of that looks awesome. We already have the content. Um, and he was like, I just want to get paid per project, not per hour, which is fine by me.
yeah,
Um, and both of us just don't have, one, I don't have the skill set. I could probably make it look pretty good, but nowhere near as good as what a professional will make it look like.
yeah,
And two is
yeah,
we just don't have the time, right?
yeah,
Like you already spent 3 hours on slight editing. At your rate is probably worth 600, seven
yeah,
hundred dollars worth of effort. Like this
yeah,
guy was nowhere near that. And we just don't have the time to do it. And he did an excellent job. I'll
yeah,
be, yeah, sure their spelling's a little off. Of course it's going to be off. It's a different language, but
yeah.
generally, like
The
that's
gist
the
was
foundation
great.
of what we'll use for moving forward. And
Yeah,
I'll add to it. There's things I want to add to it already, but it was an excellent. He was fast. Um, and now we can use it. I've already sent it off to two people, with some others on the way. So
yeah.
I'll do later on today. Yeah.
Yeah, well, from my perspective, yes, the design immediately, I was like, okay, this looks fantastic.
Yeah.
What was hard for me was then doing the editing on it because, like you and I have talked about, I'm quite detail oriented, and in my
Yeah.
mind, like the details really matter. Like I want this thing to sell us, right? And you're right, not be a sloppy doc that looks like
Yeah.
crap or
Yeah.
is riddled with spelling mistakes and stuff. And I'm quite anal with all of that stuff. I always have been.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
makes total sense for me to be the one to go through and do like the proofread and the fixing up of, any mistakes or whatever. And then kind of taking my design sense and using like 90% of what the designer has put in, but then just tweaking some things.
Cool. So,
And it was tricky. This took like 3 hours to do, and it was way more time than I had allocated. I did this yesterday, and I did not have 3 hours to put into this thing, but you were
yeah.
just like, mate, we need to get this thing out the door. Let's get it sent off. And I'm like sitting here, like, I skipped lunch actually, because I just like, I did not have time to
Yep.
do this, but yet it had to get done. And
Yeah.
sometimes there's just, that's what comes up. It's what you have to do.
So, so here's the thing. I could tell that you added in the images from screenshots of the app.
Yeah.
Couldn't tell anything else you did,
Yeah. Well,
right?
but only, I think, only because you're not super detail oriented.
Y-
If it was sent to someone like me, they'd be like, "Oh yeah, okay, they really like thought this through, and like the
Yep.
the margins and stuff, everything looks good." Like, anyway, yeah,
Margins. Come on.
yeah.
Come
No,
on.
no,
Yeah.
I'm serious.
Yeah.
We want to
Yeah.
look
Yeah.
good. Like this,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's what it takes.
I get it. So I'm of a let me you put your screen, your filter over how you look at a doc, right? How it's going to sell us and stuff like that. I think about it is what does the emotion of the doc portray? Because people aren't going to say, great doc, we'll buy. That's just never going to happen, right? It's just never going to
You're
happen.
breaking my heart here.
Yeah, but the emotion of it is like, this is sharp. This looks pretty good. This is not polarizing. Oh, that's not. Oh, look at the spellings off and or the cap. Like just as long as that cap, all that stuff is okay, and the emotion of it backs it's consistent with how we're trying to portray ourselves. To me, that's enough,
Yeah,
right? Because it's to continue the conversation, right? It's like, oh, these guys have thought it through. It's that nth degree. Hey, you want to do the combination of how you see it and how I see it, it can only be 1 + 1 = 4.
yeah.
But there has, in my mind, for stress levels and availability, I think sometimes we have to go, well, what's the trade-off here? Because we have to get things out faster. We could sit on it for a week, but for what?
Well,
For
yeah,
small, yeah,
I
yeah,
wanted to, right? I messaged you in our Slack and I was like, mate, can I just finish this off tomorrow? I was out of time. So already as it was, I had to like push some other things out of the way that I was meant to get to.
yeah,
And you were just like, no, no, we got to get this thing out. And I was like, "Ah, okay. So I just
yeah,
powered through. And
yeah.
anyway, look, I'm really happy with where it's ended up. It took a bit more time in the editing than I was hoping for, but yes, I probably could have not gone to that insane level.
Yeah,
That would
that's
have
all right.
saved some
Look,
stress, but whatever.
it's learning. So I think the learning of that is to say how detailed, like, hey, you're going to work on it and go, what, how detailed do we want it? Right. Well,
Yeah,
hey, we want to get it out to this company, like by the end of the day. Yes, sure. Like, okay, well, what do we want to do then to make sure it's okay? So it's
yeah,
to go, because I don't think we communicated on what the expectation was, or hey, I'm beginning to know that you're way more detail orientated than me, but
yeah,
then I also have a different framing of things too, right? And but if we just need to align expectation. I think it's
yeah.
just all about communication, and it's yeah, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, on the point of uh, taking the work that this Upwork designer had done,
Mhm.
correct me if I'm wrong, did they do it in PowerPoint? That's
Yep.
how they. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, he said he designed it in PowerPoint, but then he gave it to us in Canva, so we can turn it into like we can use it more with our skill set, or yeah,
Yeah.
or different versions of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So then, why I bring it up was because what gave me a lot of trouble was the formatting differences between PowerPoint and then into Canva. It meant that there's a bunch of like little blocks, like colored blocks or whatever, inside of this PowerPoint, and I couldn't edit them without like totally recreating them because it was just like I think it Canva kind of thought those were like images.
Yeah,
And so
gotcha.
it was giving me these like apply a filter, and I'm like, no, I want to change the color or I want to change like
Yeah,
the
yeah,
border radius of this thing. So I had to recreate a lot of that to get it to the
Gotcha.
level that I wanted.
Yeah, right.
Um, so yeah, that's
Anyway, okay.
one downside of working out of PowerPoint. But
Yeah, okay.
by and
Yeah,
large,
that's a good.
I'm really happy with how it's turned out. You've already sent it off to a couple people, right? We've got a few more to send it to.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
I'll just get, while we're talking, I'll check and see if we've got any replies back about it. I don't think we would have. But that's a
yeah,
good point, right? So make sure next time if someone does it, if because I asked them to design in Canva, goes, I'll do it in PowerPoint, then I should have gone, no, 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 let's do it in Canva like primarily so we don't have that issue. Um,
yeah.
yeah. Okay. Cool.
We'll see.
No replies back so far, mate. So I'll let you know the first time we get, as soon as we get one. Yeah.
Sounds
Um,
good.
all right. So another update from last week, we talked about redundancy, right? We talked about
Yes.
how got my screen smashed, which is still sitting in front of me, and it still makes me angry every time I see it, but it is what it is. So I did, I took your advice. I got a Mac Mini, and I'm building out a second station. So
Nice.
I can have that. And the challenge is as well is because the Mac Mini doesn't have webcam, I've got to buy a webcam and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. So that's allowed me to go up in quality of webcam. So when we start recording this, I'm doing more recordings, and I can go up in ability to do that too. So
Nice.
there's a bit of a win out of that. But again, I'll be without a laptop for a while. So now I have three redundancy levels now. I've got an older laptop plus this one plus the Mac Mini that'll come next week. So yeah, thanks for that. I haven't looked at the backup stuff yet, but I'll wait to Backblaze, I think you called it.
That's right.
So yeah, yeah. So mate, yeah. So that's good. I feel a lot more comfortable now, um,
Perfect.
and I feel like the business is once I sync some stuff and update and have redundancy with content, then I'm the business is
In a lot
yeah
better
is
stead.
far better position. So
That's great. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, good call. I'm glad it was helpful with the Mac Mini. With your there's this thing of, and I'm gonna get it wrong, so I'm sorry if you're like a data nerd, a backup nerd, but there's you should have. There's this saying of you should have your backup strategy should be you should have some stuff in the like you've got your data here locally on your computer now, right?
Mhm.
Then you should have a backup off-site so that if anything happens to your house, you just had a cyclone, right? If that computer got thrown out the window, you'd want to
Yep.
have something somewhere else. And I guess in your case, it's in the cloud, right? So
Yep.
almost everything you've got is probably in the cloud. But some people will have stuff in there in another office, or something
Mhm.
like that.
Yep.
And then it should be on it's something it should be on two or three different types of media. So hard drives, and then some companies, a lot of big companies will have data on tape, magnetic
Mhm.
tape and stuff.
Yep. Okay.
Again, I'm sorry if I'm
I've
not
heard that
giving
before, and it's a level of time, right? So you can go back one day before, a week before, 6 months before, yeah, whatever it is. Yeah.
all
Okay.
that sort of stuff. Yeah,
I
so you probably don't need to do that level,
don't think
but
I'm going to get a magnetic tape drive anytime soon,
I
but
can't
I do have
convince
a
you.
hard drive. Yeah, I have a hard
Yeah,
drive here. So yeah, I will do that as well. Um,
yeah, cool.
mate, okay, so I guess the main topic of today is something that we spoke about last week, and it was building a customer advocacy group. Like I've been thinking about that this week and a lot. And I think what we might do here is when we're identifying a topic of interest, like a customer advocacy group about how it can help us with product development and things like that, is to let's drill down into this a little more. Like if we highlight on something or if someone does go, hey, that was interesting, can you deep dive into that with our 10 subscribers, hopefully 11 by next week? We can drill down into that. And when we release this stuff on YouTube, we will create a playlist and release the documentation that we have created or whatever else, just
Yep.
to help people undergo this exercise. So, mate, I've been thinking about customer advocacy. So I was thinking, I've done some research this week and um, yeah, would love to chat about that and think about it from your side of the fence as a dev, and then I think about it from my side of the fence as a dev as a salesperson, because although it's the same thing, we might have different
Yep.
requirements from something like that. So, what are your thoughts on
Absolutely.
that?
Yeah, let's do it. I'm keen. I asked you the other day, or I forget when it was, like, hey, do you want me to look into this at all? Do you want me to do anything? And you're like, nope, I've got it. So yeah,
Yeah.
this is all going to be new to me, and I can try and be the voice of the audience.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Okay.
let's do it.
So one of the things that when I've been selling, working in B2B SaaS companies before, one thing that I've always that I've has never quite struck me or I haven't quite understood is the development team seems to just create a list of features and then just goes and builds the features, and then we've got to go to the market and say, "Hey, we built this feature," and you go, "Well, where did that come from? How,
Yeah,
who said that that was useful in the market?" And I think, well, I know my observation of that is not all features or not all functionality that was developed hit the mark. So why wouldn't we create a strategic, like I've got a name here, like a strategic advisory council here with key people who are responsible for building community or running events to build their community. Why wouldn't we find out what their pain point is, and what they're looking to achieve in their goals and objectives, and then see if we can build with them instead of for them, right? And I think that goes a long way to forming partnerships. If you form a partnerships, you're not trying to sell, you're not seeing as a sales organization, you form a help of genuinely helping them. And so that's how I see something like an advocacy group or a strategic advisory council or something like that.
I like that.
What are your thoughts?
Strategic Advisory Council sounds
Mate,
very posh.
we sound like we're got our shit together, to be
We know what
honest.
we're doing. We got an
Yeah,
overview doc. It's not sloppy, and we've got a strategic advisory council. It's this is
yeah,
we're humming along. Absolutely. I think on the point of like devs building out features that maybe nobody wants, in businesses that are larger than ours, you typically have like a product manager, right, who is kind of directing. Okay, this is what we're going to go after, and I guess the hope is they have done some research, on okay, what
yeah,
features should be built out. For smaller teams like you and I, separately, or even us now, like, yeah, we don't have that. So it is like all of the features that have made it into SixSides, for Laracon last year, that was all just stuff that I thought of, right? And
yeah.
some of it was informed by Michael at Laracon AU, but largely it was just like, okay, yeah, this seems cool. Let's build that out. And most of the things that I decided to build were used, which was great.
Mhm.
But for sure, if we can hear directly from more event organizers, or other people as well, other sides of the ecosystem, right? The
Mhm.
other types of people that we're going after, like attendees or from speakers or sponsors, if we can get more voices, absolutely, surely we will build a better product.
Yeah. So I think you hit on the nail here there, uh, inadvertently, is hope. You said hope, right? Have a product manager. I think we wouldn't be going into this business not thinking that this is going to scale and we're going to have at some stage 20, 30 people, right? I think that's a whole nother conversation is how do we build a business that has no more than that we could run it with no more than 10 to 20 people, right? So we can maintain close contact and relationships with everyone. But that's another story for another day.
Yeah,
But there are things that we're going to make mistakes, right? We're going to try things that's going to fall flat. I think there's things that you can that it's far more acceptable to do that. Like, hey, we're going to try this different type of approach to the market. It's only going to take a couple of hours. Where like it's a lot less of a risk because we're little mini iterating. But then I think there's a bigger risk. Whereas, well, one is you hope people have done their research, or two is I hope this feature's gonna land, but it's gonna take me a month to build it, and then you build it, and it doesn't land, and you're like, oh shit. And then that's
yeah,
where I think if we have an advocacy group and strategic advisory council, sorry, we we find out what their goals are. Like we've uncovered some really interesting problems that I don't know how to fix yet, which we won't share, right? But if we have an idea and we go, hey, this is what we're thinking we might be able to do this, and they're like, yeah, okay, or no, that won't work. We don't go down this path of um, something that is going to fall flat, right? Because we've just mentioned we don't have the time, or you
Let's not waste
specifically
time.
don't have the time to waste time. So,
Mm.
and in my mind, if we can build close partnerships and people get invested and emotionally invested in us being successful, key people in industry, that can't be bad. It can only lead to doors being opening. And that's when we go from 3 or 4 opportunities that we're looking at now to 30 opportunities because people go, hey, you've got to speak to Mitch and Gav, right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah. And it's word of mouth is by far the best lead generation tool.
Yeah.
It's already been proved here now. So yeah.
Yeah, and we don't have a budget to put towards advertising it. And yeah, so this is our
Yeah.
play for now. Absolutely.
I,
Um,
I I I don't think we should put money in advertising until we figure out the product market fit or the fit and how to actually turn $1 into three, right? If we
yeah.
can figure out how to turn $1 into three or five or 10, then that's when we go, well, let's just dump marketing dollars in the front end, right?
Yeah, we're
So
a long way from that for sure.
yeah,
It's still
100%. At least
still
3 weeks. Yeah.
episode. What would that be? Episode 7. Then
Yep.
we're spending all
Yep.
the money on advertising.
Of the podcast.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
Um,
So, how do you get started with it? What's the first step?
Well, I really think here is I'm going to start talking to some people. Like I'm already having conversations with these key people. There is a, I have a North Star that I want to get our business into, right? Should I call it out on here? Do you reckon I
Why
should?
not? Well, is
Okay.
it a competitive advantage that you're gonna give away?
Well, I'm calling it out in public, so we'll see. Like it's week 3. What's the date today? The 19th of March or something like that. I have a vision and I don't know how to make this happen. I'm about to call it out, Mitch. Calm down. Keep your hat on. Um, um, in 2032, the Brisbane Olympics are coming here to Australia, right? Um, and we are predominantly, our mission is to help people build community and um, break the ice and bring people closer together and form a foundation. Um, I'm gonna my vision, I don't know how to make this happen. I don't know if I can make it happen, but I'm gonna try to get us into the Brisbane 32 Olympics to help them. At the moment, around town and all that kind of stuff, is they're having these meetings and trying to bring that community together already. I don't know how it's going to happen, but I'm making a
Yep.
call on it. I'm going to try to figure out how to make that happen, right? So I want to
Exciting.
bring our mission is that our mission is to help bring communities together. I would like to create a strategic advisory council around how to make that happen, right? Even if it doesn't happen, if we shoot for the
We'll
moon and we
still
come
get
up
a lot of
short,
yeah. We'll get a lot of
yeah,
value out of what the
yeah,
council will
yeah,
provide us, the
yeah,
insights.
yeah, that's right. So we need to, like, I've got some stuff here. I've referred to my best workmate, ChatGPT, on how to, on what to do. And the first one is define a strategic value for participants, right?
Yep.
The first mover advantage, maybe we give them early access to certain things, maybe we give them discounts. For me, up here in Queensland, I give a lot of time away mentoring. So a lot of people I've spoken to, I've also helped. I
Yeah.
will help mentor their cohort with sales strategy and stuff like that.
Yep.
Um, and then so that's one. Define the strategic value for participants, which I'm sure people would like to help here. I've got to figure out how to frame it.
Yeah.
I've got to identify and recruit participants. So I'm thinking maybe only 3 or 4. Like Zoe would be one that we've been meeting with.
Yeah.
Um, a few others around the place as well, like Sarah, who I met the other day. Um, um, yeah, I don't know. What do you think there? What do you think about defining the strategic value? How would that help you?
Well, yeah, that's a good question. Defining the value for what the participant is going to get.
We have to be, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're not just going to do it for nothing, but you have already contributed a lot of value. And like I've seen this with how you work, it's like front and center of almost every interaction you have with someone up front is how can I be helping you? And you're doing it most of the time with little expectation of like an immediate return. You put a lot of goodwill out there with connecting with people, and then the hope, and you've got the evidence to back it up, but largely that works out for you, right? So the fact that you've already helped a lot of these people that will be looking to induct into the council.
We'll have a sword, we'll do
Yeah,
that.
that's right.
I'll
We
get a
need to get a
tongue.
merch
We'll make a
store
tongue.
going.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, sell swords on the merch store. Um, yes, the fact that you've already helped a lot of these people ought to help them. But
Yeah.
totally, if we're getting meaningful insights from this group, then yeah, if there's we can help them out with discounts, like you said, or anything else that we can think of. Yeah, I think it's great. I think there's alignment there already,
Yeah.
because these people are thinking on a daily basis about, wouldn't it be nice if this tool that I'm using could do that, whatever,
Yeah.
and ways that we could help them. We're going to get huge value from it. Plus, they'll end up with a hopefully better tool, that
Yeah.
helps them
Yeah.
do their job as well. So I think everybody wins.
Yeah. And what about the strategic value for you?
What do you mean?
So, um, what value is it to you having this advocacy group,
Gotcha.
advisory council? Yeah, what's the strategic value for yourself?
You're killing me
Mate,
with
I'll
this
get it.
council
I'll
bit.
bloody get it. Yeah.
Well, we don't build the wrong things. We don't
Yeah.
build things that people don't want. I want to build what our customers or potential customers want.
Yeah.
That's how you build a strong business, right?
Yeah.
So that's the main thing that I want to get out of this is like, well, what are people asking for? And in
Yeah.
all of the meetings that we've had so far, we're constantly getting given great feedback on what we already have, but also like, oh, wouldn't it be great if it was this or whatever? And we might jot those notes down. Like, if we can have that happening on a regular basis,
Yeah.
that would be awesome. So that's the value that I'm going to get out of this is we build the
Yeah.
right thing, hopefully.
And I think it's an observation again from other business that I've worked in. When you get client facing people like myself, right, and you're like, oh, I don't have to do it, right, and that's where you're like, I can just develop that. I can go into what my natural state is. I think it's really important over time that you never lose contact with the customer because
Yes.
it's once you lose contact with the customer then all of a sudden you start developing in isolation to something that ends up sooner or later is going to probably diverge
Yeah.
around what they want. So although it's not in a sales or marketing capacity, making sure that you know the voice of the customer, I think will be the difference between being successful and not being successful. It's just putting you in a position that you're comfortable doing and you feel like, hey, I'm not trying to sell it here. I'm like, that's not my strong suit. My strong suit is properly developing something in a unique way that offers value, right? Is making sure that you never lose that contact with the customer, I think is really important too, right?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
completely agree. Like, that's how you fall off is you stop listening to what your customers want and they go find someone else, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's right. If you're not courting, someone else is courting, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So it says identify and recruit the right participants. I already think I have some people in mind. I think we're just maybe two or three at the moment. But in here it says large event organizers. Like I have one of those already that I met at a networking event. There's a couple of different people there. Executives or decision makers or heads of associations. So yeah, like I think I'm quite comfortable on who to ask there.
Wow.
Um, and that says where do you find them? Industry groups, event industry conferences, professional associations. I'll put all this in a doc, Mitch, that you can actually just put a link to a
Yeah.
Google sheet that people can um, download.
We'll get that in the show notes. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Or we might. we'll
Maybe
figure
we'll
that
put it on
out.
the website.
Maybe we'll put it on a website or something like that, just to join our mail. We might have a mailing list here for
Yeah.
SixSides and or the podcast or something like that. So we'll figure out how to do that.
Yep.
Um, then the main thing here is structure the advocacy group, right? The engagement model. Maybe it's quarterly roundtables, one-on-one, a LinkedIn group, or one-on-one feedback sessions. It feels like for now it's probably one-on-one feedback sessions.
Yeah.
Um, we won't be developing a huge amount anytime. Like we're still balancing
Yep.
our day job. So I think one-on-one sessions, or working closely if they do have conferences or something, we'll work more closely with them to that.
Yep.
Um, yeah, and go from there, really. So I have spoken to someone. We've got some other stuff on here, right? Leveraging the feedback. Next week, I will invite Hirali Chur onto the podcast. He's the founder of a platform called Busable. He uses a customer advocacy group to help develop his platform. So we'll find out some of the lessons learned from him and
Yep.
what he would do differently if he did it again, or some of the benefits. But I know Hurley really well, and it's helped him. It's foundational for him developing the platform, and then word of mouth for him. So yeah,
Yeah. Awesome. Oh, I can't wait.
yeah. Um, cool. So what else you got on next week, mate? What are you doing?
Well, before that, a question: how long would you expect to keep this group going? Is it through the lifetime of the business? And I'm sure like people will come in and out, right? We won't have
Yeah,
people for the next 10 years, but like
yeah,
that's the plan would be to keep this going so that we're constantly speaking not only just with customers at that time, but then other people that, in the industry that can help us out. You keep that going forever.
yeah. Look, I think yeah, I see it being an indefinite thing. I would see people would cycle in and out as we
Yeah.
would go, because people will only, in my mind, hey, I'm happy to give you 3 months of my
Yeah.
time over every couple of months, right? Like a couple of hours of their time. Um, and then keep, as you develop and you maybe develop more functionality and you start going up, or maybe we've looked at, hey, we're going to surface this part of the market now with our current functionality, then we go down, maybe
Yeah.
then we look at someone down. All
Yeah.
right. So I think we've got to balance out where we're going for, how we want to get there with the type of people that we want to bring in. Maybe we have different advocacy groups, councils, strategic councils for different types of markets that we want to go into, right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think shutting that down and going, okay, we're big enough, we don't need to do that now. I think
That's how you
that would
fall
be a
off.
little bit arrogant to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
completely agree. And it's a bit boring, I guess, if we both agree on everything all the time. But in this case, I think you're totally right.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah, I'm excited. And I'm guessing then I would be on all of these calls, if not, most of them, so that I can hear direct from these people about what
Yeah.
they're looking for,
Yeah.
as opposed to you just having the call and then explaining it to me. I think that will be really valuable.
Yeah, it just depends, right? I think there might be different. The goal, let's say what the goal would be. I think the goal would be for us to get in a position that if we just had a quick, like you were like, oh, I'm thinking about doing this, and you're like, oh, I'm going to call Zoe, and you feel comfortable enough to call Zoe and just go, hey, Zoe, I'm just thinking about doing this, but I'm not sure if it's fit for purpose for you, or whatever programming language you use, right? Um,
Yeah.
but then you go, Zoe, can I just ask you a question here? Would you prefer X or Y, or can I just show you? And she goes, oh, no, absolutely, Mitch, it's this. Thanks.
Cool.
And
Okay.
it can be informal. I
Yeah.
don't think that all of it, we both need to be on every call. I
Yeah.
think it might serve, we may not need to be on certain things, but as long as, I think the main thing is the type of relationship or the depth of the relationship will dictate the type of way that you use, or we not use, as how you interact with the people on the council. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah. So
Cool.
sometimes I've got no issue. I'll text someone if I think I'm in a good relationship with them, just to find out their feedback, just one or two answers.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. You don't
because I
want to
want
hassle
to,
someone, but yeah,
no,
just a short, sharp. Hey, I'm thinking of this. What do you think about that or whatever? Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Totally.
yeah.
Cool.
So
So back to your question then, plans for next week. We have a few meetings where there will be some interesting decisions,
yeah,
or we should get some interesting feedback. So some meetings coming up next week, which I'll be in, and I'm excited for both of them, the ones that I'm thinking of. On the dev side, it's a good question. We do have a list of like commitments that we've made as far as like new functionality
yeah.
that the platform will have. So I will be starting work on some of those. I'm not going to talk about it now, but hopefully by next time we record next, if there is time in that episode,
Yeah.
then we can sit down and I can chat through some of that, what we're thinking and what we're
So
looking at doing.
yeah. So I was thinking the other day as well. We're looking at these screenshots. Maybe just going through a couple of the screens and just talking through, is that the best layout, right? Just maybe polishing it up a little bit.
Yep.
Um, just having a look at that.
Yeah.
That'll be interesting. Another thing we're doing because you and I live in different cities, you're down in Sydney, I'm in Brisbane, is
Yep.
I think we've agreed to go on this journey together, and it could be 2 years, it could be 10 years, but we both have partners and we both have families. So
Yeah.
one of the things we're going to do is sit down and have dinner together with you and your partner Nicole and me and my
Yep.
wife and two kids, and we're going to set up the laptops and have a bit of a fun dinner. I think because it's
Have a family
I
dinner.
think it yeah, I think it's really important because you and I would be in stressful situations, and it's important that each of our partners know each other. I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
so too. I can't wait. And Nicole had the idea of like we'll both, instead of just a call that's like a 5 minute, hey, how's it going? You know, da da da. All right, bye. She was like, yeah, what if we had dinner like sitting at our table? We put the laptop at the other end of the table. You guys do the same. Might be a little harder with kids and everything, but yeah, we'll make it work. So it'll be like a one big virtual
yeah, yeah,
table.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, and we
I'm
haven't
actually
been
looking
able
forward to
to.
that the most. I'm looking forward to that to most, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we were meant to do it a couple weeks ago, and then but we didn't have it in the calendar, and yeah, then I'm telling Nicole like, hey, we're doing this dinner tonight with Gav and Mel, and then it gets to I think we'd set it at like 7:30 my time or something like that, and I'm like, I message you on Slack, I'm like, hey, like, how you going? I don't hear anything. It gets to 7:30, doesn't happen, and then like the next day you're like, oh my god, I'm so sorry. So this time it's in the calendar. We
Yeah, it's in the
will.
calendar. Yeah, it's in Mel's calendar. So if it's in Mel's calendar, it really happens. So,
Excellent.
yep. Yeah, next week we got some interesting meetings. One in particular, the first one didn't go that great, and so we've been working hard to rectify that. And
Yep.
if we can get that okay, like that opens us up to a really sizable
Yeah.
opportunity. So we're yeah. And next week I'll just start doing a little more business development, like just reaching out to some people, and yeah, we'll go from there. Yeah,
It's exciting, mate. It's exciting times. Every week I'm looking forward to how we're continuing to push the envelope. And I need
yeah,
to do my part on the dev side now that this doc is out of the way, the overview doc
yeah. So
is done.
one thing I'll do as well is we've been having these sporadic, or well, I've been having these sporadic conversations with many different people, and they've been not enough for me to record in HubSpot or a CRM. But there's too many now for me I've forgotten some of the people that I've
Yeah.
spoken to, and it's only when my memory's jogged, I'm like, oh, geez, I needed to send that off. So um, next week, what I will do by this time next Thursday, we're going to have a podcast on Thursday, but
Yeah.
I will update our CRM, and so then you can put in those two conversations as well, so we could kind of track what our plan would be. If it doesn't come off, it doesn't come off, but
Yeah.
we will quickly with two businesses and my other business as well is I'm forgetting and
Yeah.
forgetting and not following up is the killer of all opportunity. So
Yeah, for
yeah,
sure. Yeah,
yeah,
well, let's do it. I look forward to that. I don't think like obviously we're not going to share any of those details, but we can talk about how we're doing that because that
yep,
might be really interesting for you know
yep,
people in similar positions to us of well, how does a sales and marketing extraordinaire, I think you called yourself in the pre-roll. How does someone like that keep track of everything in HubSpot?
Yeah, mate, I think you should keep all that intro in the beginning where you're getting angry with me. Mitch
All
has
right,
had
we
this
can do
script
that.
that I won't follow. So, yeah, anyway. All right, mate. Have a good week,
Cool.
eh?
Yeah, you too. All right. See ya.
See you, everyone.